today. My name is Morgan Walls-Dines, and as Lisa mentioned, I'm the Division Director for the Research, Evaluation, and Applied Data Division. I have with me two of my colleagues today. Just a little bit about me. I've been with the EEOC close to 13 years now, and the Division Director within the Office of Federal Operations for about 7 years. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Suwatu.
Yeah, and I'm Olise Suwatu. I'm one of the social scientists here in the Office of Federal Operations, and I'm also one of the reviewers. So as you submit your Form 462, I'm one of the staff members that will be reviewing your form. And I've been here for about 8 years or so.
Thank you, Mike. And then Latasha.
Good afternoon. My name is Latasha Monique Reddick. I'm the Attorney Advisor for the Office of Federal Operations, Research, Evaluation, and Applied Data Division. And I've been here for a little over 3 months, and I also will be one of the people that are evaluating your Form 462. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have a couple of folks here that will be assisting the agencies. We do have a total of 9 staff in the division that will be working with agencies and providing technical support throughout the season. So with that, I want to give a few very brief opening remarks, and then we're happy to entertain your questions. So today's one hour Q&A session really isn't meant to recap the entire tutorial video that was posted and available to you all, but just a few highlights I want to go over is that the Form 462 is the EEOC's electronic Excel form that's used to collect federally mandated data on federal agencies' pre-complaint and formal complaint activities. And over a period of 3 years since 2019, my division's been working with our IT department and the contractor to update the form and addressing agencies' concerns that the form contained too many data fields. This fiscal year, we have implemented those changes and we're ready to launch the form, and it's been reduced by about 33%. The largest number of reductions will fall into Part 4 of the form and all of its subparts 1 and 2, also Part C 1 and 2, and Part D 1 and 2. Our data collection season will begin on October 1st and will close at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, October 31st. And we will do our best to address your questions today, but in instances where the answer requires additional research, then please note that we will separately respond to your question via the email with which you registered for this session. And as I believe Lisa mentioned, a transcript will be available at a later date for reviewing of the questions and answers. And with that, I just want to open up the session for your questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morgan Walls-Dines. Our first question from the group is with regard to the new form. It says the new form is reduced from the old one. I'd like to know how the data on the old form will be entered in the new form.
Yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, nothing else is changing. So what we did is reduce the number of data fields, but the way you access the form, so you know, the way you would normally do it, go into FedCEP, download the template, populate the template, submit that XML along with that Excel file, and that's it. So everything will work the same as always. We only changed the data fields. We didn't change the process for submitting 462.
Thank you so much for that answer, Dr. Suwatu. Our next question, when will the revised Form 462 become available in FedCEP? We may have had some people that joined just after that initial introduction. If you could, again, restate the times that it will be
Sure.
open. And I think what would also be helpful is to let folks know what will happen. What do they do if they miss that deadline? How does that work?
Okay, so our Form 462 season spans the entire month of October. So we will start on October 1st, which I believe is a Saturday this year. So if you're so inclined and you want to enter it on that date, that's when it will be available and ready for agencies in FEDSEP. And then we close on October 31st. And that, you know, 11:59 p.m. is what we normally close on. And again, we really have to adhere as much as possible to that time frame. Our expectation is that since the form has been reduced this year, that the burden on the agencies themselves will be less. And so the preparers out there, the work for you will be less. And that's our intention and our hope. And so, you know, we don't anticipate that anything should really fall outside of that norm. IT has certain deadlines, which they must adhere in terms of locking down the form. And so we've had, you know, some agencies come back to us a few months later after the season and say, hey, you know, we really want to update this, or there was something going on with the certification process, something. And unfortunately, we're you know, it's not our call, but we're unable to really entertain unlocking the database and things at that time. And I mean, Dr. Swats, you can speak more about it, but we really encourage everyone to meet that and adhere to that time frame.
And I wanted to also say that as we're answering your questions, because we can't interact with you directly, if you feel like we didn't answer it sufficiently, feel free to follow up.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. So with the changes, will agencies still be able to submit the Form 462 through iComplaints, or will they have to use the Excel tool only?
No, we've actually worked closely with Tyler Tech, who are the developers of iComplaints. And so they've been working with us the entire time because they develop iComplaints, but they also develop the Excel tool. So they assured us that their iComplaints platform, and I think they have a new platform they're rolling out as well, but everything should be compatible. So iComplaint users should be good to go.
Thank you so much. And then the next question is, why were the issues on Part 4 deleted? And what if the only issue that was raised in a complaint was one that was deleted?
Yeah, so what happened is that what we did with Part 4, what we did with the entire form actually, for the most part, particularly in Part 4, we tried to eliminate things that we thought they were sort of issues, I should say, where there were overlap. And we also wanted to get rid of those fields that were editable. So where you had to actually insert specifically what your others were. The history where those came from is that we had those editable fields there because we would use those to create additional issues, right? But for those of us in OFO, from an analytical side, having that many open fields, we couldn't actually use those because they were just simply open text, and there were different fields there were different labels being entered at different points. So we basically got rid of those other fields and created a general roll-up. And so that's what you'll see in Part 4, for example, where we'll have all these issues here, and then we'll have a simple roll-up that says other issues, basically. So that's what we tried to do, though. We just tried to limit it in a way to where we can actually analyze that data. So instead of having open fields, we just eliminated open fields, created closed fields, because that's something that we can better analyze. But that's pretty much it. That's why we did it, though. And for the most part, the more common issues we tried to keep, though. So we only eliminated, we didn't really eliminate issues, but we sort of tried to collapse categories of issues if they logically appear to fit together. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I wanted to add something quickly to that, Mike's comments, that for agencies that have a particular way of tracking information, this form is for EEOC's analytic and mandatory regulations purposes. However, we're not asking you to change your internal processes in terms of how you capture or track your information. So if you have an internal tracking system, by all means, don't feel as if you must, get rid of that or eliminate that to comport with what we're asking for. We're just trying to, like Dr. Swati mentioned, roll up categories that we felt might be kind of overlapping and redundant and things like that. So, but we don't want to, presume that you may use those data for other reasons. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you know when Tyler Tech will make the updates to ETK?
Yeah, they were supposed to, they said that they would have those ready, where they're working to have those ready when the season start. So they should be good to go, when the season start. And like I said, we've worked with them this entire time. They are the ones who actually made the changes to the template. So for us,
Much. So if you've collapsed categories of issues, when will EEOC be issuing a new crosswalk for issues?
Yeah, and you'll see all that on form in FedSep. We'll have a user guide. We'll have new crosswalks and all of those things. They'll be in the user guide though. In that section of FedSep, what is that section called? I think it's called Form 4. It's under Form 462 and it's under, I think, documents.
Guidance, I thought.
Guidance, yes, it's in the guidance section. So the same place where you'll find links to our videos and things of that nature, you'll see the new guidances that reflect changes in Form 462.
Thank you so much. So one of the participants shares that their understanding is that the Excel tool has usually been available before reporting season, and they're interested in knowing when exactly it will be available this year.
Oh no, we never make it available before the season. We have had conversations about that though. We have had conversations with agencies. So we do know that agencies would like to have that thing early so that they can sort of get a head start. But yeah, currently we hadn't released it early. We always make it available October 1. So when the system goes live, that's when that form becomes available.
And we do this for a few reasons in terms of standardizing our protocols, because as I mentioned, our staff basically serve as your technical support. And so we are primed and ready to have all of the materials and resources available to you by, before, definitely before the 1st, but we want to support you and be ready to do that. And so, just as every other agency, we are closing out our 2022 fiscal year activities at this moment. So, to make it on a level playing field for everyone's sake and to have the same type of support, it's best to start on the 1st.
Thank you so much. So just taking a look at some of the other questions that we've received in the chat so far. I see that there's a request for a copy of the change form. Someone's wanting to know if we could share that with them. And what we'll do is we'll try to share that in the chat momentarily. Okay. We also have a question. Do our claims need to be updated to be in the other category? Please let me know if you need additional clarification on that question. And the participant that shared that question, if additional clarification is requested, please type in the Q&A and we'll do our best to get you your answer.
Yeah, and for the other category, no, basically the things that you would have normally have itemized in the open fields in part 4, for example, but those things you would have normally itemized, it would just be anything that's not already listed goes into the other category. So you just put all that stuff in the other category together. Now we're counting it all together. And what you do is in the comment section, you specify exactly what those others were. But so you don't really have to change how you are, reporting that data. What we're looking for with these other categories, we're looking first, what you do is look at your closed fields And anything that doesn't fit into those closed fields, other is now a catch-all. And the details of the other are no longer on the form, no longer in the field itself. Instead, it's in the comment box.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So on parts 10 and 11, if a case of ADR used both internal and external resources, do they have to include a comment on what those resources were?
No, you shouldn't have to have a comment there. We decided that because we were not analyzing the details on what the resources were, we just wanted to know whether they were internal or external.
Alrighty, our next question. I'm unable to unload the FY21 Form 462 report into FedSet because the complaints data upload option isn't available since this is a late submission. Is there any other way to submit the report? So we may have touched on that briefly earlier.
I'm sorry, they said they were unable to.
They were saying that after, this is a question about after the closure of the form. Are there other ways to submit their report?
Oh, yeah, the only way we're doing it is, as always, those guys who are using iComplaints, you can upload with iComplaints, and those who are not using iComplaints, you'll upload the Excel template and the XML. So those are only two ways currently. Once again, same as always, though. That's how it's always been.
Thanks so much, Dr. Sawatu. So will the import data tab on the Excel tool be affected by these changes? And will they be able to import data from the 2021 form?
Yeah, and you can't, and you're not supposed to do that anyway. Technically, when you start a new form, we're talking about a new fiscal year, new data, new occurrences. So you're not supposed to really use the Form 462 to import data from a previous year. So, so you shouldn't be doing that anyway. And if you were to try to do it this year in particular, it wouldn't work because some of the data fields, you can see quite a few data fields were eliminated. So the forms are no longer compatible. The import tool will work though. If you are entering data for FY22, something goes wrong, the form gets corrupted, you can download a new form and then import your data into into a new FY22 based on your previous FY22 form. So it's that feature still works as always, but
Right.
not across years. We shouldn't be importing across years.
Thank you so much. And there's some questions received with regard to the video. So if someone from the READ team could please, if we can push that out, we'll push out a link to the YouTube video. The passcode for the passcode, there's a question about the passcode, so we'll get that out to you. And then there's also, I just want to call everyone's attention that the tutorial video is available on YouTube, and you won't need a passcode. To find the video on YouTube, you would just go to youtube.com/EEOC-OFO. Again, EEOC-OFO all together. And it's the last video posted. And you won't need a passcode to view that, and you will also be able to use captions. Alrighty. So next question is, will the X1, F2 deleted categories be counted as hire or promotion, or will they be counted as other?
Part 10, let me take a look at the form right quick. So we're talking about part 10. Okay, let's see. So part 10, and what was it again? Part 10.
It is, bear with me for just a quick moment, please. Okay. Looks like it's X1F, X.1.F.2.
Okay.
Yes.
So you say part 10. I'm sorry, Carlisa, can you read that again
Oh,
for me?
no, it's all
Because I
right.
can't look at both.
That's quite all right. You're quite all right. So it's X.1.F.2 is how it's shown in the question.
F.2.
Mhm.
F2? Let me
Yes, sir.
see. I'm not seeing
For the
that.
individual that submitted that question, if you
Yeah.
would be so kind, if you could double check the citation, and we'll make sure that we're giving Dr. Sawatu the correct site so that he can provide an answer.
I'm probably just overlooking it on the form, I'm sure, but
So as that person has an opportunity to
oh, I
confirm
see. I see what he was asking.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay. Okay, so let me read that question one more time now that I found where he was referencing. Can you read it? Do you have it in front of you, Carlisa?
Certainly, I can pull that up. Hold on just a quick moment, please. Alrighty, so the question is, will the X.1.F.2 deleted categories be counted as hire or promotion, or will they be counted as other?
Uh-huh. So yeah, it will be. So if you have in the previous years, if the hires were retroactive or non-retroactive, you would just simply, it'll be counted in the hires on the hires line. If the promotions were retroactive or non-retroactive, it'll be counted on the promotions line. So essentially what we considered then was whether or not that benefit was a retroactive hire or non-retroactive hire. For our analytical purposes, we were not concerned about that. We only wanted to know whether or not there was a non-monetary benefit as a hire or a promotion. The subcategories we didn't feel were as important, so we eliminated them.
Fantastic, thank you. In eye complaints, and we can share the load. I don't want to I don't want to keep calling on you, Dr. Sawatu, but certainly anyone on the panel is welcome to answer. In eye complaints, our claims are logged as those now eliminated categories. How does eye complaints count that data if it's in a non-existent category?
Yeah, and that's what Tyler Tech, that's what they're working on. So they are updating their iComplaint system to feed into this, well, I should say to generate data based on these new specifications. So that part should be taken care of by Tyler Tech. So your systems should be pushing out an update to you guys. We don't use iComplaints. Tyler Tech is a vendor that provides iComplaints to Form 462 users. So a lot of the ins and outs of what happens on that side of things, we don't know about, but we do, because they are the ones who create our form. They also create, or they update iComplaints to be compatible with our form. So we just kind of rely on them to make those two compatible. But they are the vendor for both. So they should be compatible.
Right. I wanted to add to that. Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be able to provide technical support on the iComplaints product because it is a product that's owned by Tyler Tech. So when we are, helping agencies, we're specifically looking at that Excel tool that will, then upload as an XML. And that's where we kind of operate in terms of our division. So yeah, unfortunately, the very specifics around the iComplaints product will have to be managed by Dale Bird and the others who work on that side.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, because Dale is very involved, he was very involved with this process, and he's very good about kind of answering those things about iComplaints. So yeah, if you have any questions on the iComplaint side, reach out to Dale Bird at Tyler Tech or whoever your POC is at Tyler Tech, and they should be able to answer any compatibility questions. But like I said, they create both. So these things will be compatible. iComplaints in the template.
All right, thank you so much. So someone that says, I may have missed it. What will the 2022 form be named within the guidance tab exactly?
It should be called, let me bring it up right quick. Yeah, it should simply be called EEOC Excel Tool FY 2022. And it should say V1. So yeah, that should be the name. Are you having a hard time finding it in FedCep? Oh, it's not in FedCep now, but if you were to go to FedCep, it would have the same name as the current form. The only thing that will change is the fiscal year and what version it is. So it'll be fiscal year 2022 version 1 in this case. And the reason that we have these different version numbers is that sometimes we make slight tweaks to the form during the season. So tweaks that you guys normally don't. It normally doesn't impact you guys, but.
All right, thank you so much. So here's another citation for you. So get ready, get ready, get ready. In parts X.C and X1.C, should in-house include only my agency's mediators, while all others, even if they are mediators from other federal agencies, example DOD or IRD, are considered external?
Yeah, and I'm assuming that this is the DOD. This is a DOD agency. So I would say consult with our user guide. We should have, that should be specified in the user guide. But when we generally though, when we're talking about in-house, then yes, it's well, it's probably not a DOD agency, I'm sorry, but I know that some agencies use DOD for their complaint processing. And, so in that case, we have a reference to that in a user guide about how agencies who are relying on DOD should interpret these things. But yeah, in-house though, for the most part, is when they are your staff at your agency that is handling it. External is when there's it's contracted out, whether to another agency or to a vendor.
All right, so there's another question on specifications in terms of data that's not being captured. So I'll just read it exactly as it's written.
Okay.
What are the specifications? And not every federal agency uses iComplaint, so it's still not clear what happens to the data for reporting purposes if the EEOC is eliminating categories in Form 462.
Okay. I'm just reading it again. Oh, yeah. And so what we have is the user guide. So the user guide, it specifies where all the data items belong and what data you should be using to populate those fields. And it includes the things that changed. But for the most part, like I was saying, though, if you look at the revisions, what happens is that for the most part, what we eliminated were subcategories. So anytime you see a subcategory, like what we were looking at earlier when we were looking at part 10, I think it was part 10, line F, and it was, we eliminated where it would say F2, where it was hires, we eliminated what would be F2A and F2B. That means those data fields that you would have normally have placed in F2A and F2B, they're just simply going to go into F2. So, and so these things we explain in the user guide, but these are where most of the changes occurred. So it's not that the data is not being tracked anymore. It's just that you're not drilling down as deep as you did in previous years. A lot of the details we got rid of because we were not using them. We were not analyzing the data at that level of depth.
Thank you so much. Regarding the crosswalk, this guidance is not on FEDSEP, so it's unclear how we're supposed to categorize issues regarding the data for FY 2022 and going forward.
Yeah, and so we're updating FEDSEP now. So we're updating the crosswalks, we're updating the user guide. So we'll have all those things up and ready before October 1, but in the next couple of days, I assume. Because Morgan, we don't have those things up yet, right? The updated
No, we're still in the process of making sure everything is accurate and finalizing those materials. So that's why we said folks can't start early. You will have everything that you need for sure on October 1st and soon there before, but at this time, there is nothing available to you.
Yeah.
Besides the webinar and I believe that the slides were posted and made available. Is that right, Lisa?
The slides for the
Webinar?
the webinar, those have not been those have not been shared. What we can do is we can share those with everyone after today's event. So we can do that. We can share that with everyone who is registered. I'm not certain if those have been posted in FEDSEP or not, but I can get an answer to that and provide that when sharing the actual attachment with those who've registered.
Hi,
Okay.
yes. I just want to interject. So the slides are available on FEDSEP under guidance, 462 guidance, and it's fiscal year 2022 Form 462 revision slideshow. So they should be able to retrieve them.
Thank you, Latasha.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. And just as mentioned, I'll make sure then that those also go out to all the registrants, just in case we have people attending that for whatever reason may not be able to access FEDSEP. So if that's helpful to anyone, we can do that.
And I see where someone is saying that we announce these things 2 weeks before the season starts. And I do understand that sentiment, but what we were doing is we've been working hard to kind of make sure everything is ready. And we've been especially working hard with Tyler Tech to make sure that iComplaint users are ready. So so this is just some turbulence that we'll experience this first this year, but it should be fine in the years to follow. But we were working as hard as we could and as fast as we could to make these changes and get these things announced to you guys, and so that you're ready at the beginning of the season.
And I want to add to that yeah, we appreciate that and we understand that sentiment very well. And believe me, we worked very, very hard. We had working with a couple of different entities beyond ourselves to make this happen. And so we understand that there may be more support that's needed for this first year. But again, our intent is to minimize the amount of time required as per the feedback that we received. And so we really wanted to make that happen this fiscal year. And so we will, do the best we can in terms of, providing the support that you need and understanding that it is a learning curve, and we'll continue to move forward in the progressing years to make sure that we continue to, do better. We're always striving to do better. And so it may be a little uncomfortable and, but we definitely feel that in the long term that this will be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and we're here, our division, we're here throughout the season. So as you're completing your Form 462s, if you run into any snacks or concerns or things that you may find confusing, reach out to us, and we respond quickly. As you come, you may send an an email to Form 462, but there's a person on the other side of that inbox that is very well aware of that you are a person on the other side that needs help and you need help urgently. And so we treat it accordingly. So we'll be here to support you though throughout this, especially throughout this first season of these revisions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suatu. If you could, can you give that full email address?
Yeah. Someone wants, what is it?
Form 462 at eeoc.gov.
Okay.
Fantastic. All righty. So let's see, we've got a few more questions here, and I invite you, we've got some time here still on our webinar. Please take advantage. You've got the subject matter experts here available to you. So please do take advantage of this opportunity and submit your questions or comments, and we'll make sure that we get answers out to you. Let's see. So it's incredibly frustrating that changes get made right before reporting season, and then the guidance is not available. Are we working with other vendors? The question is, are we working with other vendors so that we're not unfairly advantaging Tyler Tech?
I'm not sure. Is that a question we can answer?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. You know, we are where we are with our current situation and working with Tyler Tech and our IT department. And I can say honestly that everybody worked very, very hard on this effort. You know, nothing is perfect in terms of the timelines and things like that. And like you mentioned previously, we understand that. You know, our ultimate goal and vision, as I think has been previously discussed within for the agencies, the EEO directors and things like that, is that we would like to have an electronic solution to this process, and that is a long-term vision. Of course, that requires a lot of moving parts with agencies. Some agencies invest heavily in their own systems. You know, EEOC would like to have a system where all of you all could, you know, go into the system, enter your information and not have to think about it when Form 462 comes around, because the data is already there in a more of a real-time fashion. But that there's a lot involved with that. So at this point in time, you know, my vision is to streamline this process as much as we can with the resources that we have. But I can tell you that, you know, we are looking forward. We are not, you know, short-sighted in terms of this process, and where we're going is a much better process. But that is going to take time, and so we, you know, but we're always happy to listen and entertain if you have, you know, other ideas of how we can work within the existing time, you know, process that we have to make it less burdensome. I mean, that is a strong passion of mine, and my team will let you know that, you know, that we spent a lot of time working through that. So at this time, I can't really speak to any outside vendors. All I can tell you is that we are looking down the road and we definitely are heading in the right direction.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you all for that one, your response. I have been running Form 462 daily, and at this point have no errors. So someone's tracking here with their reports, and they're concerned that they may have you know, errors starting October 1. So the question is, I've been running Form 462 daily, and at this point have no errors. Are you saying that once October 1 comes, I can expect errors?
Yeah, and I'll say that I know that I'm assuming this is an iComplaint user that that has that ability to run 462 whenever, but the way 462 is designed is for it to be run after October 1, because even during normal seasons, we make changes to the data checks and things of that nature. So it's always a chance that you could get errors after October 1. What happens though is that you should reach out to Tyler Tech to see if they've already updated iComplaints to be compatible with this new form. And because if you get errors after October 1, it shouldn't be because of incompatibilities between iComplaints and this form. So, but Tyler Tech is working with iComplaint users to make sure that they're compatible. So reach out to Tyler Tech and ask, have they updated you? Have they already pushed out updates to your system to be compatible with this new form?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in terms of where the revision slideshow appears, there's a question as to, whether we will be recategorizing that in FEDSEP. At present, we have an attendee that shares that the 2022 Form 462 revision slideshow appears under MD 715 rather than Form 462, and is wondering if that will be updated or adjusted. I'm gonna get you a fresh one. Oh, okay.
Latasha, are you able to respond to that?
I'm just double checking because they may be getting confused with the webinar, but the actual slides should be under guidance and Form
For Form
462.
462?
Yes.
Okay.
So they
We'll
may be
check
just
on
getting that
that.
confused, but I'll
Yeah,
just double check.
Okay, we'll check on that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll double check to make sure that the guidance is in the correct location, because that's extremely important. So thank you for that.
All righty, we do have a question on the YouTube video. Someone is wanting the direct link to that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that out to everyone across the Q&A. And thank you very much, Latasha, for sharing that with me. And so, yeah, so you'll have that in just a moment. All righty, so that person did share the last question that you answered. You were asking if they were iComplaints user. They shared that they are.
And someone wants a contact for Tyler Tech. I'm assuming all iComplaint users know Dale Bird because he's very active on that side of things, and he engages with you guys quite a bit, I know. And he even provides technical support during 462 for iComplaint users. Because like I said, some of the things we can't address from our side because we don't use iComplaints for what we do. But Dale Bird at Tyler Tech is our point of contact. But I'm assuming that as an iComplaint user, your OIT guys probably have a point of contact that works with you guys. So probably should reach out to your OIT guys or whoever is providing your agency support for iComplaints to find out who is the POC at Tyler Tech. But I know for us, it's Dale Bird at Tyler Tech. And I'm not sure if we want to give his email address, Morgan. Do we want to give his email address here?
No, I think that your suggestion was correct in terms of the POC. I know that Tyler Tech has what they call Tyler Federal, which is an offshoot. It's like they've split into the federal government. And honestly, I don't know the generic email address for that at this time. I apologize. But as Mike mentioned, there should be a point of contact for every agency at this point for iComplaints.
All righty, thank you so much. If we have any more questions, please do feel free to type your questions in the chat. I mean, in the Q&A. So accustomed to saying chat. Feel free to type them in the Q&A, and we will do our best to get those answered for you live during this session. Oh, so I believe this is there a question on? Okay, so we're good on that. We're good on that. Bear with me for just a moment, just to see if we have any additional questions. Again, feel free to type your questions for the panelists in the chat. This is your opportunity to hear from the subject matter experts. So again, please type your questions in the chat. We'll do our best to get those answered for you. Okay. We've talked about how it was decided which items would be removed. We've talked about extensions. There's a question on how these changes impact iComplaint users specifically.
Yeah, and we were saying that they shouldn't. Tyler Tech they're the vendor for both iComplaints and for our Form 462 Excel tool, and they work to make sure that they're compatible. So they created iComplaints in order to populate our Excel tool, and they are responsible for the changes that we made to our Excel tool. So they're going to make sure that their iComplaints platform is compatible. So you should be good to go.
And they provide the technical support. Tyler Tech and Tyler Federal will provide you with technical support regarding any questions that you have about the iComplaints process. I do know that, as I mentioned, that the crosswalk that we've alluded to is going to be important to you all very much for knowing, what the new and old changes are to the form. And I will do my best to make sure we can get that user guide out as soon as possible. I believe, I don't want to put Latasha on the spot because I know she's been assisting with the updates. Do we have an approximate time frame for the finalization of the user manual, Latasha?
Not at this time. I honestly don't know just yet.
Okay.
But I'll get something. We should have an update I can find out by today.
Okay, so we'll try to aim for, as soon as possible to have that available to you all for those resource materials, but you won't be able to actually see the Excel tool until October 1st. So, you can have access to the materials, but the tool itself will not be released until the 1st. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walls-Dines. What other parts of the Form 462 submission process have been impacted by the changes that were just recently made?
Mainly, it was, mainly is part 4. The main thing where you see changes is the main place where you see the changes in part 4. And the changes in part 4, we sort of changed the same stuff throughout the form. So pretty much we focused on the other categories. That's what we mainly focused on. So over the years, we got many complaints about, matter of fact, we reject a lot of forms every year because of misuse of the other category. And so, so a lot of people were complaining about the other categories. So we tried to get rid of them. So we tried to make all the categories as cleanly defined as possible. And then we created an other that is just simply a catch-all. Of course, part 4 has more others than any other section. And so that's why you see a lot of changes to part 4. You may see a lot of blackened space in part 4, but most of that blackened space was actually us getting rid of the other categories. And in getting rid of the other categories, in some instances, we had to define the parent category that other category was nested under. We have to redefine it in a way to where it would capture all possibilities of other as much as possible. And anything that couldn't be captured there is just simply thrown into that other as a catch-all, with the details of that other now being placed in the comment box. So we shouldn't be rejecting as many forms because of misuse of the others, like we did in previous years, and you guys shouldn't be as frustrated by it. But that's where most of the changes occurred. And as you go throughout the form, if you look at the training video and you go throughout the form, that's what you're seeing where we're getting rid of mostly is the others. Another thing that we're getting rid of are subcategories. Very seldom did we get rid of a main category. We would get rid of subcategories because the subcategories we consider to be not as important. We didn't need that level of detail on that main category. So yeah. So what happens is that it sort of on surface appears to be a lot of changes, but when you actually look at it, it's really not. Most of those changes was dealing with other. And we didn't do this thing, we didn't make these changes ourselves arbitrarily. We had feedback. Well, we had when we put our work group together to develop these changes, we picked an agency from a small agency, we picked a medium-sized agency, and we picked a large-size agency. We got an EO director from each of these agency sizes and brought them in, and they sat down with our guys here at OFO and some of the guys in OEDA, and we all kind of sat there and combed through the form and tried to make it more succinct, mainly by getting rid of the other categories.
All righty, thank you so much. So we have a question. We've gotten a few of these questions. If you could please address the issue of extensions again.
There are no extensions. That's our blanket answer. We really want to stick to the season to whatever extent is possible. Now, that is not to say that we are completely rigid in terms of, as a circumstance presents itself, and we treat these on a case-by-case basis, but we do not advertise or openly start saying, hey, we're going to grant extension, because that's really half of the team are data analysts, and we treat the data collection season very seriously, in the sense that we have to close it so that we can start the process, or our IT department can start the process of cleaning the data, making sure that we can have a complete data set so we can start generating information for the annual report, which goes to Congress, et cetera. So there's a lot of moving parts outside of our division that are affected by these data on the whole. And so we really want everyone to do their very best to adhere to the 31st deadline. And that's really what I want to say, is that, the deadline, please treat the deadline as October 31st. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walls-Dines. So really quickly here, we'll see if we can't, there's been some questions about sharing a copy of the form, if we could share the changed form. We'll see if we can get that shared with you momentarily. And just to recap on the question regarding the location of the slideshow, when you go on the FEDSEP, you're going to find the slideshow under the guidance section, and the title will read FY 2022 Form 462 Revision Slideshow. Again, you're going to go to FEDSEP, you're going to go under guidance, and then you'll see FY 2022 Form 462 Revision Slideshow. Okay, so again, the slideshow is available there, and I'll be sure to push that out to everyone that registered in the event that you may have that you may not have access to FEDSEP. And thank you so much, Dr. Walls-Dines. With regard to the question on the availability of the form reflecting the changes, there's not presently one available. So that's not something that we're able to share with you during today's event. And so we're not able to share that with you just now, but just know that it's forthcoming, and it will likely be uploaded to FEDSEP, just so that you have that visual, if most would find that helpful. Alrighty, I'm checking the Q&A.
Latasha's hand is up, Lisa.
Certainly, Latasha, feel free to unmute.
Sure, I just wanted to add that under the FEDSEP, under guidance, you also have to go under the Form 462 FEDSEP section, and that's where the revision slideshow will be. It was under MD 715, but it has been moved. So it is in the correct location now under Form 462 FEDSEP. Thank you.
Fantastic. How's that for service to stakeholders? All right, that was really quick. We appreciate everything. And so wonderful. Any additional questions? We just have, let's see, just 4 minutes. Just 4 minutes. Time is moving so quickly. Just 4 minutes to ask any additional questions that you may have for our panel of experts here on Form 462. Again, invite you to post your questions in the Q&A. Again, please post your questions in the Q&A. Dr. Walls-Dines, there is an announcement that's one of the participants would like to share in the Q&A. If you could check to see if this would be something that everyone would benefit from. And in the meantime, Dr. Sawatu, if you would, please let us know if there's anything that was not asked during today's session that you believe would be good for folks to know before they leave today's session. If there are any common questions that we didn't get a chance to touch on, or any common issues.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. Like I said, just sort of, I hate that I'm sorry. I hate that you can't see the form now, because if you actually see the form, then the changes that we made are going to make a lot of sense to you, I think. And I think that you'll also see that the changes that we made for you guys, it shouldn't be inconvenient. It should be more convenient, because most of the changes are just simply eliminating the drill down subcategories. So you're giving us less detail. And also want to just let people know that, we're here when the season starts. We're working, every day for 30 days, providing you guys with support. So drop us an email if something comes up. If you're confused about something, we always work it out in a way to make sure that you guys are getting these things into us on time, because you are our priority for those 30 days. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. I don't see. Oh, okay. Here's a quick question. If problems occur after the release of the new Excel sheet, will the due date be extended?
Well, I can say this, that we've already been testing the form, and we've been testing it fairly extensively, both our guys in OIT as well as Tyler Tech. So we've been extensively testing the form. They were not going to roll it out if they didn't feel confident that it was ready. But if problems occur, they should be able to be resolved fairly quickly with little downtime on your part. Believe it or not, every year problems occur with Form 462, even when we don't make changes. Most of you guys are not even aware of those, because we're able to fix those things fairly quickly, like within hours, within a day, before anyone even notices that there was a problem. So it doesn't normally hold up operations. As far as extinctions, I guess Morgan can answer that. In the event of in the event of some sort of serious problem with the form.
I think, again, we will treat everything on a case-by-case basis. And Lisa, I was going to say that if you wanted to share that PSA from the individual, that's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think they're trying to be helpful to the iComplaint users. But this is coming from one of the participants.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Walls-Dines. So one of the participants just wants to share with their fellow colleagues that for iComplaints users, just because a claim or corrective action is coming off the report doesn't mean you have to remove it from your system too. Just adjust your Form 462 mapping. Just adjust your 462 mapping for those data elements to reroute them to their new place in the report, and they can stay in your system. They advise that you should check with your Tyler rep on how to make that happen. So again, just because claims or corrective actions are coming off the report doesn't mean you have to remove it from your system too. You just want to adjust your mapping and then work with your Tyler rep on how to make that happen. Okay. All righty. Well, we are right at 1 o'clock. And so I want to thank everyone for attending and turn it over to Dr. Morgan Walls-Dines to wrap up. But it's been an absolute pleasure hosting.
Thank you so much. And I know we're a little over time. I want to thank everyone so much for attending today. And hopefully this information was helpful. As I mentioned, we will provide the questions and answers for you to refer to at a later date. And then the PDF of the form, I do want to share that as soon as possible. Again, I understand the nervousness around looking at the changes, and I think it's important for you to do that. We simply want to absolutely make sure that all of our P's and Q's are dotted and our I's and dotted and things like that, because we are making sure that all of the systems behind the scenes work for the data checks and so forth. So my hesitancy is just to make sure that that's totally in place with Tyler Tech and our IT department. And as soon as that is available, I will provide the PDF so you can at least look at that. As Dr. Swatu alluded to, you can see how things flow. And I do think that you will be pleased, and we hope that you're pleased. That was our aim, to make things easier. And so we really appreciate your time today, and we look forward to serving you October 1st. Take care, everyone.
Morgan, can I say one more thing? I'm not sure if you
Okay.
want to give them an email address to contact us.
Form
I saw someone
462 at
ask.
EEOC. Form 462 at EEOC. Thank you. EEOC.gov. I'm sorry. Form 462 at EEOC.gov is the email. Thanks.
Fantastic. And that email address was pushed out in the question and answer. So it's pushed out in the question and answer. So should be available to you there. Again, Form 462 at EEOC.gov. For those of you that are were asking about the video again, I would just share with you at the time of your registration, that information was it's in the email that you would have received with your registration. So you can find it there. And then I'm also happy to send that out when I send out the slide deck or the PDF of the slide deck to you later on, either this afternoon or first thing in the morning. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great evening, all.